Good morning. No coffee this morning. I've got load shedding, so yeah, but it's cool. Just now, we're almost there. But something that I want to chat about this morning that's been on my mind ever since yesterday morning, actually, late in the morning, and it's just come and gone the whole time. And it's something that's actually been coming out of my mouth a lot these days. And what happens with me, especially because I believe God shares every morning's message at this stage. It's messages for me, but He doesn't share with us to keep to ourselves. He shares with me so I can share and put it out there because somebody else can learn from it too. And it's when we, especially when we start sharing things with people, it becomes different as well. The It becomes a lot more part of ourselves when we start sharing. I feel there's a sense of accountability that comes into play. One particular thing though, because once I start applying it to myself, once I start realizing these things and apply it to myself, it becomes so part of me as well that I can't not just share it with people. But because also I'm that direct down the line person, if I run into a space where God made me realize, oh, I've put him aside in this area, or I've put him there in that area, and that's why I'm struggling with this. That's why I have a challenge there. That's why this isn't going well. Because my question to myself would be, where is God? Then I start going to other people. You telling me something, and it triggers that thing in me. I'll immediately go, where's Jesus? Where's God in your life? What are you missing? Why aren't you praying enough? So, so the thing for today is about talk is cheap, and talk is cheap. And if you're not don't ever or haven't ever quite understood what this means, is let me see if I can help you a little bit with that. So the way I've come to put it in other terms about talking is cheap is that it's easier to say stuff because it doesn't cost you anything. It's just hot air coming out of your mouth. We're not talking about the fact that words aren't powerful and the tongue isn't powerful, that life and death lies in the power of the tongue. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about when you say stuff. It's cheap because it doesn't cost you anything. You say you want to start your own business. You're saying you want to be a manager or a director of this and that company. You're saying you want to be a South African South African sports person, or you want to be the best weightlifter in the world. You want to be the best surfer in the world. Cool, lekker, nice, good for you. But it's cheap because there's nothing behind it. It's something you want. Maybe sometimes it's something you need. But for as long as you just speak it, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't start to become a reality. It could be a dream that you have, but a dream will stay a dream unless you start working toward it. You know, I like it when I had to check this morning because I was so sure that it was directly said. A lot of these phrases that we have in life generally tend to come out of the word. And if we have a close look over here, Solomon actually mentions this in Proverbs 14, verse 23. It says, in all labor there is profit. You see, you've got to work. In all labor there is profit, but idle chatter leads only to poverty. Talk is cheap. Idle chatter leads to poverty. Talk is cheap. Solomon said it. Oh, it's funny. And if you don't believe me here, look at this a little bit earlier in Ecclesiastes 5:7. I found it said exactly like this in the New Living Translation. It says, talk is cheap, like daydreams and other useless activities. It says, fear God instead. Oh, man. Now, this word fear over here in this instance speaks about our Solomon teaches us in Proverbs 1 where it says wisdom starts with the fear of the Lord, and that fear of the Lord means serving of the Lord. One of the translations says, in Afrikaans, it directly says, wysheid begin met die dien van die Here in chapter 1. So, talk is cheap, my friend. The Bible even says talk is cheap. And it is, but when you think about it this way, it generally it's what it is. It's just saying things it doesn't cost you anything. There's no blood and sweat involved. There's no money involved. There's nothing. You're not putting your money where your mouth is, as people tend to say. So, but when you start sharing things with people, when you start telling people, this is what I want to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I think I must do. Once you start saying these things, those thoughts start taking shape. And you also start, at some point, you maybe even action it. But the main thing around sharing it with people is now, especially the people who you value in your life, now you start becoming accountable, because those people can hold you accountable, especially if it's people around you that you're sharing with, that are people that can hold you accountable, that you allow to hold you accountable for what you say. So now, are you not a man of your word? Are you not a woman of your word? Don't you do what you say you're going to do? You understand what I'm saying? So stop being a cheap talker. That's the term that I actually use these days. And if you feel attacked by it, then cool, good. I'm glad. Feel attacked. Get off your bum and start working. That's because that's also where the cheapness loses its value. That's where the cheapness becomes valuable. Because now you're moving, now you're putting action to your words, now you're putting money to your words, now you're starting to sweat to add it. So now it becomes expensive. Now your talk becomes expensive because now there's movement. We see stuff happening. We see things are going. You are a person of your word. You didn't just say it. You actually say and do. Now, word and deeds need to fit together for me personally. Otherwise, you confuse me. Don't say one thing and do another, because then you don't become. Then I'll be a guy from where's your honesty? Where's your integrity? I'm that kind of person. So, and when you do start moving and you are in the movement and all these things, and you start involving God in all these movements, which is what we should do in the first place anyway. Normally when I start speaking these days as well, it just starts as a random thought. Then I start approaching God about it. Then it becomes more words and better words and all these things. And then when I start involving God, remember the Bible says God directs our steps. Because then I get stepping. But I involve God going, okay, God, you direct the step. And man, then you see God move. You got to see God move in all of this, yeah. And I like it how, it also says that it starts with a little. It's not going to be boom, bang, there it is, a great, massive ministry, a great, massive business, the world knows. And no, it doesn't start like that. It starts with one step. It starts small. Remember, Matthew 25 speaks about the guy with his 3 laborers. He gave them talents, and he gave them a little. And two of them had profit, and the one didn't. Kept it to himself, or he hid it away, or whatever. But the first 2, they went and made profit, and he said, "You good and faithful servant. With a little, with a little, you were faithful. Over more, you'll manage. You'll manage more. You'll get more because you could handle. You worked properly. You were responsible. You were accountable. You were accountably responsible. That's nice. With a little, so I'm going to give you more. So I'm going to let you grow. Oh, I can see your actions over there, Mr. Joinky. Well done, sir. That's good with that little one step at a time. I'm going to give you 2 steps. I'm going to give you 3 steps. I'm going to give you 10 steps. I'm going to give you 100 steps. Be faithful with the little, my friend. Luke 16 also speaks. There's a mention of a woman who proclaimed the greatness of God when he made her fell pregnant. If you also think of in the Old Testament, was a woman that got pregnant. I think she was 85, or Abram was 85 when he bore the child. But the woman was also of age, but she got pregnant. If you look at the woman at the well that Jesus spoke to, she ran off proclaiming his greatness to the people because he told her everything that she's done in her life, all the men she's been with and all these things. In a moment, she had that, wow. But when it happens, you get to these spaces when you start working in action, you go, wow, look at what God's doing, look at what God has done. It's like, oh, look at the progress that I haven't even noticed. You reach these spaces. It's incredible places to be in. So when God starts speaking and you start speaking, you start adjusting your mind, you start adjusting your mindset, and you start living and working with these things. Stop being a cheap talker, and it doesn't matter if it scares you or not. Because with men things are impossible, but with God all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. With God all things are possible. Don't put your God in a box. God can do things you can't even think of. He gives you a picture just to give you a picture, but he does more, bigger, better things in the end of the day anyway. So trust him to do that. So put your money where your mouth is. Put your actions where your words are. And don't be a cheap talker.